And welcome everybody to the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money taking. The man, the myth, the legend. You all know him, you all love him, Mr. General Zod. First off, I want to say rewatchability. Uh, I'm really glad to be doing these reviews at this time. I literally do them after I got out of work. I would have had this going a little bit sooner, but I had some personal things, you know, cars and things like that to take care of. So I'm doing this kind of at this time, but I know for all of you who will be re-watching this and leaving your comments and things like that, I really appreciate it. I have gotten quite the response, a lot of different reviews, some good interaction. So thank you. Keep your questions coming, keep your comments coming. I'm barreling through right to the end. And speaking of the end, we are in episode 6. And today's episode is how it is with brothers. Very, very appropriate tagline. And I'm starting to get the gist of how they're framing the sayings that they have for the episode, because somewhere within the story, they say the line that is the name of the episode. Now, a minor detail, but I appreciate when you have a show that makes a reference to the title of the episode and it doesn't necessarily have to, but it does. I don't know. I think that's a little cool thing that they do. I'm all for it. So, anyways, this episode, let me just say, episodes 4, 5, and 6 feel like a arc within itself, like a three episode story that's wrapping up one thing, and you'll see what I mean when I get into my detailed breakdown. But for right now, I'm going to do a short, non-spoilish kind of review for all of you who haven't seen it. And then I'm going to go back through and break it down in great length and detail as I do. So this week on Penny Dreadful was an exciting week. This episode was surprising because this episode was exciting without actually having a lot of action in it. There is a huge interrogation scene within this episode, and I've got to say, shout out to the people. Hey, what's up, Stone Cold Jeremy? Good to see you, buddy. Uh, I gotta say, shout out to the people who write this show. It is very hard to shoot damn near 45 minutes virtually of this episode is within an interrogation room. But the tension that's on display here, this is writing 101. This right here is how you write dialogue and how you make it tension filled. If you guys have been on the channel, you know my favorite director is Quentin Tarantino. And Quentin Tarantino is famously known for dialogue in his movies. His action is like hyper violent, whatever. But these later films, he's been really using sharp tongue dialogue. And I appreciate when people can hold a tense conversation. I think it's more true to real life. And this particular episode had the most tense police interrogation scene I've seen in years. I'd say the only other show that really has rivaled the intensity of this interrogation scene is one of my favorite shows, The Shield, where Vic Mackey would come in and no bullshit and mess around, or you had Claudette and the rest of them coming in. It threw me back to that time period of television, and I gotta say, I super enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed this episode right here. I would have to say is now the my new favorite of the season. And the great thing about this show is it only seems to be getting better and more tighter as we go along. And they seem to be shifting their focus and getting it very narrow, which I like. The story isn't all over the place this week. They're actually focusing in on characters and storylines, and this felt like a three-part epic to uh, what was happening with Tiago and Mateo and him finding out what his brother did. This episode right here wraps it all up in a very shocking way. So let's just get down to it. My brief overview for all of you who don't want to be spoiled. Basically, the whole thing is an interrogation. Last week, they caught Diego, who is running. There's like four of them in this group. I don't know how they call themselves a gang, but there's like four of them. This kid has been caught before, and he gets caught again, and this time he gets wounded in the exchange, and they're trying to sweat him out, get the details. But plot twist, he knows that Tiega's brother was the one who pulled the trigger on the hit on the cop, and is trying to determine this whole episode if he's going to use that for leverage or if he's going to take the hit. And this guy's been basically the guy who is the fall guy. Okay. I had to look up his name because honestly, throughout the show, I just thought his name was Fall Guy. Which is, I'm not kidding you. Like, this kid has taken the rap like 3 times. But this is serious now. A cop was murdered. Okay. You're talking about taking the rap for the murder of a cop. What makes this scene more tense is that there are police officers who want to beat the shit out of this kid. Okay. He killed a cop and they want to go in there and they want to interrogate him their way. Brett Spiner, shout out to him. He is amazing in this episode. He has the really unforgiving and unthankful position of being the police chief and trying to keep his men in check. And with the city is on fire, people are like going at it. There is like such tension in the air. And these next key moments, this interrogation is the key to either this whole thing explodes or somebody somewhere takes a hit. And that's what this episode is about. There's a lot of moral ambiguity, a lot of characters faced with making shitty decisions and being shitty people and morally compromising their beliefs in order to get the job done. And that's what this whole 3 episodes have been about. It has been a journey for our main character, our main protagonist, what kind of man he wants to be, what kind of family man he wants to be, what kind of cop he wants to be, and is he willing to compromise his morals in order to do what he's got to do? Does he turn his brother in and destroy his family, or does he get the right perpetrator and basically send his brother to the gas chamber? That's what they're talking about. The needle, the chamber, whatever you want to call it. That's what this person is getting, and probably a world famous ass whooping. So there's a lot on the line here. There's also a bunch of little stories. There's the thing from last week, Peter and his wife, sister Molly and her whole love tryst with Tiago. Adele, that's the evil woman's name. This, her mother Adele or Adeline. Her mother Adeline is the creepiest lady I've ever seen on television. She plays like mommy dearest, like I've never seen. She's downright creepy. This episode though gives her more of a familiar kind of a feel, more of a motherly feel. She's switching roles now. She's going from creepy, threatening to being logical. And it was cool seeing both sides of this character. Also, we have one more subplot. We have Maria. This is the old lady who we haven't seen in many episodes, who is the Brujo, and she is in contact with Santa Morta. She faces off against Magda to get Mateo back. Now, I hate when a show, okay, this show promoted like she was going to go head to head with Magda, okay? We were going to see Natalie Dormer and her like face off, but it's not that. It's more of an emotional scene between her and Mateo, and Magda is in the background. They kind of glance at each other. I think she knows who she is. They don't give you a lot of context. There's a bunch of tense stares, and then Magda kind of lets her leave, and the rest of the people let her leave. So it's not really a showdown. It's not a face-off. It was more of a emotional exchanging of words. And don't get me wrong, the scene is very touching. It's my thumbnail. Hats off to the woman who plays Maria. She is very good, and she doesn't overact it. She reminds me of like that sweet motherly lady. Okay, the really old, trying to hold the family together person, right? She's watching her sons get torn apart from all of these events, and she is making a last ditch attempt to salvage her family, which epically fails. And shout out to whoever plays Mateo. I really am gonna have to start learning these actors. I apologize, but dude does a fantastic job. The pain in his words, the line delivery is absolutely positively phenomenal. You know, Zod doesn't get emotional, but I'm not gonna lie. There were a couple of moments when they're talking where I felt his pain, and like he's not crying and he's angry, but he's got tears, but they're like those angry tears. And like he has a moment in this episode where he could pull it back. He has that moment when Maria comes where he could be saved. Okay. He could do the right thing. Okay. And he chooses not to. And it's like every scene you've ever seen when you see someone fall. All right. And not to be dramatic, but everyone who's a Star Wars fan, best way I could relate it. It's like watching Anakin's fall, right? Where there's several moments in Anakin's storyline where he could pull it back and you're screaming at the movie, even though you know how it ends, you know he becomes Vader, but you're like, no, man, you could do it. You could pull it back. Mateo had that moment in this episode. Mateo had the moment to do the right thing and blatantly chooses to be pissed off and angry. And it's a mixture of him being the youngest, him watching his brother get shot, him watching the cops come into this club and beat the shit out of his people, all of these things, and then taking someone's life was the final straw. It wrecked him. He is just broken. I mean, there's not a better way to put. He is very visibly broken and easily influenced. And you know, thank you, Jonathan does a tremendous job. And in his character, he is so fractured and so broken and plays it so well. I mean, a lot of people can go over the top or something like that, but when I watch this show and I watch him act it out, it feels like that younger sibling. Like I really wanted to smack him through the TV because I was so angry. It's like, come on, man. People are trying to give you advice. And he has a moment with Magda and all of them, and he has a moment where he's explaining how he feels about killing this guy, and he's like, we killed the cop, and he's like, you didn't do it, I did it, right? Where like he has that moment when he realizes what he's done. But at this point, I don't think either he knows what to do or he just figures he's too far along to stop now. He's already killed someone, right? He's taken someone's life. You're kind of past the point of no return at this stage. So, I mean, a lot of that kind of, it was a lot of emotional things that were going on in this episode. So, how do I rate this? And I'm sorry, a 14-minute short synopsis wasn't really short, but I kind of get into my talking points here. But I would rate this episode honestly a 9 out of 10. Just for the acting alone, the line delivery, and that intense interrogation scene, which I will be breaking down. Uh, it was very well constructed. It cleaned up one storyline. I don't feel like it's a closed loop, but I feel like it progresses so that we can deal with these other things. And we're 6 episodes in out of 13. So it's a good place for them to kind of cut this off, and then we start getting into other things. Uh, Very good stuff. I loved it. I definitely would recommend that you guys check this out and follow it all the way through. These last 3 episodes have been great. They've really gone uh, good in focusing on these characters, and I think they've built a very good setup for what's to come. This is the halfway point of the season. This was what I was hoping for, that there would be things to draw me in, and I'm very intrigued now, especially the ending. But I'll get to that. So I'm gonna go from the different characters, and I'm gonna go to the least highlighted characters all the way up to the final arc. So I won't be talking about the whole police scene until later because that's going to be the longest for me to break down, and I've got a lot to say about it. There's a lot of things I want to highlight in that scene that I think are relevant and important to the story. So let's jump into a couple of these characters. I'm going to start out with Sister Molly because she's the least highlighted in this episode. And her and Adelaide, like I said earlier, they have a talk. She goes from creepy stalker mom to weirdly maybe caring. They have a sit down, a heart to heart, and I like I like how they play the religion into this, and I like how she acknowledges that maybe you don't 100% buy into the fact that you are this religious figure, but people buy into the image. You are helping out people, right? She does charity drives, donations, counsels people. uh, Welcome, PB. Good to see you for my breakdown of Penny Dreadful. And yeah, uh, I got people on the rewatch, PB, people on the rewatch. But anyways, um, so Sister Molly and Ellen have this talk, and she says the best line that I've heard in quite some time, and she says that maybe you don't believe in the image that you are selling, but people believe it, and it's important for the people. If she is caught in this relationship with this cop who is going through a bunch of stuff right now, and it gets out to the people who are following her, then it's going to destroy this pure image that she puts on stage for everyone, right? She's mentoring people who've been raped, people on drugs, things like that, and she's giving people hope. And a part of me kind of understood the argument. Like, yeah, it's not so much about the religion, that she's not pushing the religion, she's giving people hope on these different problems in their lives that they have. She's giving people an outlet for their problems. She's a counselor. She's a motherly figure. And it's a lot to put on someone's shoulders, but it's what she chose to do. It's the path she's walking, and she wants to stay the course, then she's got to make a choice. Either she takes herself out of the limelight and all of the good things that she likes to do goes away. Okay, that's the sacrifice. And that's the thing about these 3 episodes that I find brilliant. Because if you're looking for what every person's storyline is about, in this episode, it becomes very clear. The whole premise of these episodes, and really what this has been leading to, is sacrifice. Everything is coming to sacrifice. What this person is willing to sacrifice for this, what this person will sacrifice for this, what that means, and whether or not the people fully comprehend what they are giving up. Right? Townsend, okay? Townsend is our next character. He's in league with this Nazi guy, okay? They have a great conversation, and he talks about being in Germany and how he liked it, and he didn't have to deal with the mongrels and stuff like that. is getting real white supremacy kind of, right? And Townsend pulls it back and says some of the greatest dialogue I've heard. He says, he goes, how can you stand this city to Townsend? He's like, how can you stand this city? How can you stand these people? I had to get away from it. And Townsend says, I love this city because it's not who you are that matters, but who you can become, right? This town is about reinventing yourself. And he tells a story about Fred Astaire and how he met him just walking down the street, right? And how Fred Astaire was able to do blackface and get away with it, right? Because he's Fred Astaire. And he was able to invent himself as that. And no one looked down on him. No one judged him for that. And it's kind of a reference to their relationship that they got going on. I know, two dudes, whatever, okay. But it's kind of a thing about how he's this politician, but he's also this completely different person outside of politics. Okay. And he was able to mold this image of being this big, powerful, blustering, no nonsense, don't take shit from anyone in his political life. But outside of that, he's just like anyone else, man. He's searching for like days on the beach and, you know, white Nazis. I don't know, you know, to each their own. Rock on, fella. But I mean, it's a great sentiment to what this show is about is that everybody wants to be something different. Everybody is trying to be something that they're not. And I think that conversation ties into this whole theme that's been running. And, you know, has been putting these. Stephen Logan is the writer, and he did the first Penny Dreadful. And I think his writing here is more artful and more intellectual than the original Penny Dreadful. The original one felt very straightforward. He weaved in some different themes about monsters and the inner monster, right, that took a literal form on. This one is about more of people's inner monsters and people wanting to change that, or people being something that they're not, or putting on a face they're not, right? And I think it's kind of is relevant to everything that's going on now, right? What you see of someone is not necessarily who they are. And everything in this episode seems to reflect that point, or seems to be the point of what the episode is about. That these people are not the people that they're pretending to be, but are they willing to become this other thing, right? Are they willing to do what it takes, okay, for the greater good, right? Even if they got to change everything about themselves, even if they have to compromise everything they are, is that what this person can do? That's just what I picked up from it, okay? So Townsend highlighted that very well. We got Townsend, Molly out of the way. Let's go to Peter. Oh boy, this man. I love Peter. Okay. I love Robert. I believe Ketchner is the person who plays Peter. He played Frankenstein's monster. He is a monster in this of a different kind. He is a man who is so hidden. He is the epitome of a wolf in sheep's clothing. And you see some of that wolf come out in this episode. And oh man, his wife took a big L in this episode. And I actually felt bad for her because when they first introduced her, I saw her as this, like, you know, drunkard, smoking, kind of, you know, shitty person, right? And then we get into a couple of episodes in, we see she loves her kids, she loves her life, but she realizes the man she's with, right? They've been married for a couple of years now. And when you're married to someone and when you're close to them, they can put up that facade for everybody else. But when you sleep with someone, you know who they are. You get a glimpse into who they really are. And this man must be something quite terrible because she makes a lot of references the last couple of episodes to Peter's to who he is, and if people saw who he really was, they'd have a difference of opinion. And he comes home and just says, "Yeah, this isn't working for me. Um, I'm gonna boot you. I'm gonna date this other girl from my homeland. Deuces." And I'm like, "Damn, that is cold, man." My man says, "Yo, so my man low key pulls the power card, okay? This was a 2-point play of douchebagness, okay? First, he says, Hey, what up, GP? We are talking about Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, episode 6, how it is with brothers. So, anyways, Peter, okay? This guy's low key doctor, right? But super secret Nazi, okay? His wife has been threatening him, saying, Yo, if people knew who you were, you would be finished. And he came hard today. He told his wife nicely, he's like, Yeah, this isn't working for me. Um, you're gonna have to pack your shit and leave. And she was all like, There's no way, you're getting the kids, I'll fight you, blah, blah, blah. And he pulls out the I'm a doctor, you're a drunk. And who are they going to believe? An upstanding pillar of the community or a drunk housewife? And I was like, oh, snap. He just called her a drunk housewife. And he said that if she didn't leave, he was going to have her committed for depression. I mean, he said he's going to take her to a nice facility and stuff. And I said, my man didn't even he gave her the option to go and she pulled the I'll take the kids. He wasn't having that. He said, It's all right. I got you set up in a nice facility. Adios. So he is A6 and the wife, moving in Natalie Dormer's character, who's a demon lady with child that comes out of her. I don't know what the hell that's about, but evil spawn child, okay, is moving into the house with this man and he's kicking out his wife. Wow. Like, just wow. Like, that showed you what this character was. He is no nonsense. Like, he was not playing that. He didn't do the whole American husband when he feel like, come on, we can make it work. We can do the thing on the weekends. Nah, he's committing her. I was just laughing my ass off. I'm like, wow. Like, wow. He just jumped to committing her ass. Like, okay. He wants to hit that. What can I say? So that's pretty much that arc, man. Kicked his wife to the curb. He's gonna commit her, keep the children, and move in another woman to look after his kids. I don't even know if I could say that that's like douchebaggy. I almost want to say that was a G move right there. Like, that was a straight power play he pulled. He was just like, not only are you leaving the house, but I'm committing your ass too. Don't worry about the kids. I'm gonna have someone else come in and we're all gonna be a family. And I was like, God damn, bro. And she's a devil or something. I don't know what she is, but wow, just like, okay. So you killed someone who was innocent the last episode, hid the body, and now you're kicking your wife out. That's not gonna end well. So we had that whole thing going on, and now we're getting to the two main points of this episode. The first point was, as I talked about earlier, Mateo and Maria. So Maria, the mother, tracks down Mateo. After he killed the cop, they hauled ass to Mexico. So they're sitting in this little village thing in the middle of nowhere, and Maria tracked them down. So kudos to Mama Bear because she found her son, knocks on the door, sees Magna. Now, this is the part that kind of confuses me. She is a brujo, and Magda, as we know, is an angel of some kind. I don't know. I know Santa Morta is the angel of death. I don't know what in relation Magda is. They haven't explained that. But there's a weird moment where they look at each other. I don't know if it's in recognition or the fact that they can just pick up a sense. I want to say like the Force, man. Like they get a sense of each other, and she just stares at her, Maria, with these like ice cold eyes, and then goes for her son. And now here's the funny part. It's Magda and this gangster guy, right? And then her son. And no one tries to stop her, okay? That's a Spanish ma. You don't want to get in the way of that. She'll start going off. Nah, and they know. They just let her go. And her and Mateo have probably the greatest dialogue thus far of the show, and she is trying to pull him back. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is that Anakin Skywalker moment. All right, where he could be saved if he does the right thing, if he makes the right choice and chooses to go with mom and leave and figure it out. It might not be good, but turn himself in, do something. And they have this big long speech, and he gets into everything that's happened, right? His brother's been shot. The cops have beat the shit out of him and his friends. He didn't go into killing a person, but he implies he's done something really bad. And the mother's like, it doesn't matter. We can work it out. We need to bring the family together. She is trying to save whatever is left of their family. And this to her is like a last ditch effort to get her kids all back. And he straight up says, nah. Like this whole episode, he's on the fence, right? He argues with them saying, I killed a cop. This isn't right. I need to do the right thing. And when he sees someone in his family, it's like the asshole kicks in and he decides, fuck it. I'm just going to ride it out, and I'm going to lead this movement or whatever the next step of their plan is. And he chooses the gang over family. And I think the point of this scene is the fact of choosing something over the family, much like the choice that Tiago is going to have as a cop. Does he choose his family or does he choose the badge? That's what most of these episodes have been about, is family or duty. And I like that. I like the way they present those options and how difficult it is, and how when you have that, not everything is black and white. Okay, so serving, I understood that, right? There's duty to your country and there's duty to your family. And if you have those two things collide, well, you've chosen a particular vocation, you've chose to protect other families, and you have to put the needs of other people first. In this situation, though, he's choosing a gang of people who he really doesn't know and definitely don't have his best interest in mind, but he chooses them over the family. Now, on the flip side, you have Tiago, who has to choose the badge or the family, and turning in his brother or not. So that's the contrast. And I think it's very eloquently done. But long story short, he chooses the gang. So Maria leaves, she storms out and walks back. Holy hell. I don't know if she walked to Mexico or not, honestly. I don't know how the hell she got there. She was just there. She found him when no one else could. So, that's mom's though. Who knows? Mom's got mystical powers. So that goes terribly wrong. Now, here's the highlight of the episode. Here's the meat and the potatoes, the bread and the butter. The interrogation scene is by far one of the finest moments in this show, and probably in I don't even know what you want to say. If you go with police procedural shows, the setup for this is so tense. Okay, so they didn't catch the people they wanted to catch. Okay, Natalie Dormer got away, Mateo got away because Tiago let him go, and the only one they caught was Diego, and Diego's been caught before. So when they haul him back in, This was the guy that was getting his ass beat by McCluskey, whatever the fuck the cop is that they killed. His name. He was getting his ass whooped by him. So automatically, when they bring him back in, he has been judged the moment he gets in. And they are pissed at Tiago because Tiago let him go during that interrogation. So it's like you let the perp go who then killed the cop. And these other cops want to interrogate him. And by interrogate him, they want to take billy clubs out and beat his ass from one end of the interrogation room to the other until he admits to murdering their friend or dies, or the latter. So it's a very tense situation. Brett Spiner, who plays the police chief, he is in the world's shittiest situation because he's got a bunch of angry cops who are out for blood. So he gives them a limit on this interrogation and says, you have an hour to break him. If you do not break him, then I send in the other guys and y'all get a coffee and whatever happens, happens. But I can't hold these guys off because we're going to have some shit go down in here and they're not wrong. You know, a cop's been murdered. So Tiago and Lewis go in there and they begin their interrogation. At this point, Diego knows that Tiago's brother, Mateo, is the trigger man, and he knows who the brother is because they've had chats about him. So he starts off the conversation thinking he's got the world's greatest leverage. And in a sense, he does have the best leverage because he knows Mateo is the man who killed him. He was in the room, and as he put it, he didn't pull the trigger, so to speak, even though it was a knife. He didn't do the actual killing, but he knows the person who did. Now, here is the interesting part of this. Diego has a dilemma because if y'all know the streets, your boy is from New York. Nobody in the world likes a rat. Okay? So, he's playing this card, but if he goes down that road, he has ratted out someone in their crew, and his life will be less than nothing. And sure, he might get himself from getting the chair, but he's going to do some time being an accessory. And you do not want to go to prison ratting out someone in your crew. You might as well just kill yourself before someone else does. So he's got this card to play, but it's not really a great card. Through this interrogation, Tiago is keeping it from Lewis that Mateo is the one who killed this person. And Lewis, as we know from watching these episodes, is a sharp dude. And he's starting to put it together with the fact that Diego wants to talk to Tiago by himself, and they're all hush hush, and they have this back and forth exchange. And Diego gets the balls to say, hey, here's the plan. Either I rat your brother out, or we have a scuffle. I take your gun, and it looks like that I just took your gun in the struggle, and then I lead you out, and you let me go. And he's like, hell no, I'm not going to let you go. Because if he grabs his gun with the hate that Diego has for these cops that are around him, he's not just going to take his gun and leave. He's probably going to take his gun and have a shootout with the rest of the people in the precinct. And that's going to create another shitstorm because it'll be like, how do you get your gun? You know, they got the holster and the button. You know, there's no way he could do it like that, okay? And Tiago knows this. But he also knows if he says Mateo was the guy, that will also cause a shitstorm. Because then the question will become the third man. Did you actually catch him or did you let him go? Because no one followed him when he was chasing the third man. So that leads suspicion on him. So now he's in this really rough situation and he is trying to keep this to himself. And him and Lewis at this point have the greatest exchange about how he is so upset because eventually Lewis figures out that it is his brother because Diego tells the story about brothers and about how you do anything for your family and do anything to protect them, and then kind of gives it away. And he says, "So the story is you're protecting your brother." He goes, "Nah, my brother's dead." And then looks at Diego, and it's like, "Oh, come on, that's like the world's biggest hint right there. If you're a detective and you don't figure out that clue, then you shouldn't have a badge." And Lewis is pissed because he's like, "Look, I don't care what the situation is or what kind of shit that you've gotten into. What I do care about is that we're partners, and the shit that you get into is the shit that I get into, and we have to have each other's back." And when you really think about it and everything that's happened, he shot his older brother to protect his partner. Why he wouldn't let him in that his brother was the killer, it baffles my mind because I feel like he would have worked with him. But at this point, he is super pissed, and they have an exchange of words. And Tiega's like, "Well, you don't have family, so you don't understand." And oh man, he just like wrecked him. And he's all like, "Fuck you." He's like, pretty much like cops are a family, right? The badge, the people you're with, your partner, that's kind of like your family, right? And you're just like basically like outcasting them. And I kind of felt him. I was like, wow, man, that's cold. Like I was in it. I was locked into the scene. And so he goes in and he goes, "You know what? I'm gonna fix this. Watch." So they bring in some pictures of the gas chamber, what it looks like. They're talking it up, right? And then he pulls the greatest line. And Lewis plays it cool, man. He plays it to the street. And he says, "Look, this can go down two ways. You can go ahead, you can blackmail a cop, you can try to, play that card. But what is your life going to be worth out on the street? You're still going to go in. You're going to go in as accessory because you're going to go in, you're going to get your ass whooped, you're going to get raped, and it's not going to be a fun time because you're going to San Quentin." Now, the other way this can go is you take the rap for the murder of a cop. You take the rap for the other murders in the beginning of the show of this upper white class family, right? You say, "Hey, I was making a statement," right? Now, that that'll get you respect because you've dropped three bodies and you killed a cop. So the convicts will think that you're a legend, right? That's what he said. He goes, "You'll go down as a legend, or you can go down as a scumbag." And I was like, well, shit. I guess that's option number two, right? And it makes sense. Sure, he might have some heat from the guards, but the convicts are going to leave him alone. He's going to get a free pass, and he's part of a gang, right? He's got it made. He's taken out this family. He's taken out this cop who was tracking him. He looks like this like epic legend to these people in prison, and he's going to have a pretty smooth sailing for taking the rap of these. Now, I mean, he's going to get a murder charge, but you could do a murder charge and you can do it being a punk and a rat, or you can take a murder charge and take it like a man. And he thinks about it and he's like, yeah. And the episode ends with a slow mo celebration. So, in all of this, Tiago and Lewis looks like they solved the case, right? Because he's taking the rap for the murder in the beginning of the season. So that's like three murders, I think, like four murders and the murder of a cop. It's all wrapped up in a bow. It's the world's most epic lie. And the kind of crazy part about it all is that they actually don't know who really killed those people. So whoever actually killed the people in the beginning just got a free pass. And Mateo gets off free. But as I said in the beginning of this all, it is about sacrifices, right? And Tiago was not willing to sacrifice his brother. As a repercussion, he had to sacrifice a part of himself as far as the job goes. And he had to tell this lie. And now this lie is hanging over them. This lie is what they've got to keep in order to keep the peace. And it seems like a very thin, flimsy thread. I mean, this dude starts killing again, their story falls apart. I mean, another cop dies, their story falls apart. So many things could go wrong. But for the time being, this is a band-aid on a race war, on a multiple murder that's creating racial tensions. It's all wrapped up in a bow. And the fucked up part about it is even the police chief at this point is like, get this kid to confess. I don't give a shit at this point, but we need this to calm down or we're going to have a full blown, all out war in the streets, blood everywhere. And when you look at it like that, it's kind of like, is it a bad thing that they did? Is the lie so bad? Is it bad to tell this lie? If this kid, this kid is a scumbag anyways, but if this kid can take the rap and he can quiet down this whole thing, is it really that bad? I mean, yes, it is, because Mateo is still out there with his gang. They have a phase 2 that they're moving to. And this killer has not yet been revealed. We don't know why these people had their hearts cut out and what it all means. So, yes, essentially 2 people got away with murder in this episode, and 1 person who did nothing took the fall for it. So, from a moral standpoint, yeah, it's really bad. But from a societal standpoint, greater good, I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. For me, it was very murky water, and I don't know how I felt at the end of it. The end scene was so chilling. And it was chilling not because there was something supernatural or there was some kind of grisly murder. The tense, chilling part of this moment is that these cops who were ready to beat the shit out of this kid and like really hurt him are smiling, right? They were hurling insults at Tiago a moment ago, right? Just like an hour ago. They were getting ready to just barge in there and they didn't care who was in their way. And then all of a sudden, Lewis and Tiago are like heroes. They're popping champagne. There's a slow motion with 30s happy music playing. And there's something so eerie about them being happy with nothing actually being resolved. It's just the thought of revenge or the thought of them finding the person and convicting the person was enough to calm it down. And the crazy part is, it kind of reflects the real world. Sometimes the thought of something is more powerful than actually anything being done. The idea that it's okay, that everything's resolved, the idea of closure and not closure itself. Closure itself is an ugly, messy thing, right? People's lives are destroyed. People are brought out into the open. Things are revealed, right? But the city has been running under illusions, and it might even be a statement to Los Angeles and the City of Angels itself, right? With the story earlier from Townsend, how you can be anything you want to be. You can invent anything. And they invent a story to essentially calm down what's going on. It's all fiction. they've solved nothing. They didn't arrest the real perpetrators. They let them go. They're still out there. But the illusion of having the person is the thing that holds everything together at the end of the episode. And there's something really good and oddly eerie about the whole thing that really got under my skin at the end. That to me was more terrifying than seeing a ghost or a ghoul or something like that. And I applaud them because, from a certain aspect, this season is about human nature. And Magda's whole mission is to expose man's human nature, their nature to destroy and things like that. And it is in our nature to also believe a lie if it makes us happy, right? You know, the saying about white lies and things like that, right? Things you tell your wife, things you tell your kids. Sometimes you don't always tell them the truth because the truth sucks. The truth hurts. The truth is ugly. And there's a double-edged sword to that. Sure, the white lie is good. It smooths things over, okay? Creates a good path. But with that, it makes it more ugly when the truth is revealed. And I think that's the point of the show, right? Is that this town is run on lies and deceit and people not being who they are and people trying to be something they're not. And it is all exposed. And then, as quickly as it's exposed, it's swept away clean by a little white lie. All is forgotten. A cop's murder is closed. The murder of 4 people, okay? 2 kids and a wife and a husband, swept under the rug, all in one confession. There's something really terrifying about that concept. And I think what's more terrifying about it is the fact that it's indicative to real life. The fact that in real life, you have these lies that actually are told every day. And for years and years and years, things are predicated on a lie. And the interesting part about it is when the lie is exposed, it's a whole lot worse than if you told the truth in the beginning of it all. And that's what we're seeing. The truth could have been told several points in this episode, okay? People had the opportunity to tell the truth and do the right thing. And this isn't, and the great part is, it's showing it's culturally has nothing to do with it, okay? People on the Mexican side, people on the police side, the white people, everybody, the ethnicity, it doesn't matter. And that's the point of the show. It's not about race, it's about people. It is about human beings. Human beings have a propension to want things easier. They want the rose-colored, sunny, everything's bubbly. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, but the real world is ugly and horrible and horrendous, and bad shit happens to good people for no good reason. And we tell ourselves lies to make it all seem better. And I think that's what makes this iteration of Penny Dreadful far more terrifying than even the first one. Okay, granted, the first one had a lot of more special effects. They highlighted the monsters more, and I really liked it. This one, to me, though, highlights a different kind of monster, and that's people. And it doesn't matter your race, your gender, your ethnicity. Everybody in this show does something shitty. Guy, girl, white, black, Jewish, German, it doesn't matter. They all do shitty things because they're all people that all make decisions and choices. And their decisions and choices have consequences that lead them to where they're at. And I never thought watching this it was going to be that thought provoking, that it was going to be that much of a psychological study on human beings' nature. I think that the nature of man is more terrifying. When you look at Penny Dreadful and you look at Frankenstein's monsters and all of those storylines, Dracula, Vanessa Ives, and all of them, he's not changing the subject matter at all. He's probably made it more terrifying. When you see a monster, it lessens the blow of the point of the show, right? But it was always there. Frankenstein's monster was actually not a monster. He was probably the most human of the show. And I'm probably going to do a big thesis on this, or I'll make a video explaining the parallels. But Frankenstein's monster was the one who became a monster because of the things done to him and how he was shown. When he first was created, he was like a child. And through people screwing him over and doing all these terrible things, he thought that was how man was. Dracula, right? His whole thing was humanity as a whole, feeding on human appetite, things like that. And Vanessa and her being outcasted and sought as a witch and things like that, and almost being burnt and having been scarred, and all these terrible things that happened to her that made her mistrusting and not able to have a relationship. Josh Hartnett as the Wolfman, right? He was cursed, yes, but he also did terrible things in the war against the Native Americans, all right? He killed all of these people, he slaughtered families, and the wolf was a reflection of the terrible shit he had done. It was a curse given to him as a repentance for the sins he had carried out in the name of his unit. Okay, so action, reaction, human nature, that's what the show's always been about. This is more human, but it's more man's nature. It's the ugliness that we act upon ourselves, that we draw out. And the ugliest time period was during World War II, right? And there were a lot of people pretending to be things that they weren't. There were a lot of things going on. There were a lot of racial tensions and things that were going on. And it was people acting out against other people. And throughout this whole thing, throughout all of these episodes, it's been one poor choice leading to another, one lie that leads to another lie. And this is the ultimate lie at the end of this episode. This is probably the worst lie because two killers have gone free and an actual innocent person has taken the rap for murders that they did not commit. He didn't have nothing to do with the first ones. Okay, that might be the church. But if it is, they get off scot-free because he's taken it for the team and he's admitting to murdering a cop. And it eases the tensions because they got their man and the bloodlust is sated. But justice is not done. Justice is sacrificed for the appeasement of people's emotions and feelings. And man, when you look at it like that, it's a heavy episode. It's a heavy theme. And that's why I give this episode a 9. There's so much stuff. And if you take it from 4, 5, and 6, they all kind of line up together. And this is one complete arc. They've essentially finished out the storyline. I mean, I'm sure it's going to come back later. But for now, they've essentially closed out 2 stories in the span of 6 episodes. Good. I want to know what's going on with Magna. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I want them to start going into what the supernatural angle is in this. But holy crap, man. Like, yeah, 9 out of 10. Solid 9. Great performances, great acting, really chilling stuff, and very in-depth, thought-provoking, just a great. I love how this director and writer ask you to think about it. You can look at the show on the surface level and you can judge it like, oh my goodness, they're making white people look like this and the Mexicans look like this. But it's not that. It's very much, there's more to this. And he writes subtle. It's a very subtle, he doesn't demonize one side or the other. if anything, he's demonizing man as a whole, or pointing out that man himself is the flawed one. It has nothing to do with your race or gender. Everybody in this show is a terrible person, essentially. I mean, really, probably Josephina and Maria are the only people who don't have dirt on their hands. I mean, everybody else is covering up. Everybody else is shitty and shady and doing something, uh, you know, even our hero, our protagonist, compromised himself to save his younger brother. And you could argue the point that's what you would do, but at the same time, you let two killers go scot free. It's a big moral conundrum, and I respect the hell out of it. Kudos. I think this thing is deeper than anyone would give it credit for unless you really scratch the surface of what it is. You can't look on the surface of the show. You gotta see and hear what the characters are saying, see and hear what they're talking about, and understand everybody is to blame. Nobody's innocent. Everybody's an asshole. And they're quick to make each other the victim, but really they're a victim of their own choices. And I think that's a great statement, especially now with everything that's going on. I think it's an excellent statement that playing the victim and pointing the finger, okay, you're not taking responsibility for your part in everything. And you know you're wrong. Every character who's made a shitty choice knows that they made the wrong choice, but they don't want to make the right choice because the right choice is too hard. And that's the point. And I think that's the point of what the creature Magda is saying about man, right? Man is eating themselves alive. There are some good people and we see them, but we see the ugly people too. And it has nothing to do with anything but their choices. So, anyways, I really enjoyed this episode. I loved it. I can't wait for episode 7, honestly. I can't wait to see where they take it. I can't wait to see who's next on the line. I mean, I can't wait to hear more. I believe I haven't seen the coming attractions for the next one, but I'll watch it after this, and I believe they're supposed to focus on Maria and Santa Morta, from what I heard, because it's the name of the episode is Maria and Santa Morta. So I'm gonna assume it's gonna have to do with them, and we're gonna get some backstory on her. And you know, hey, great stuff. If you're not watching this show, definitely check it out. If you are watching this show, in the comments, let me know, what do you think of the show? What have you gleaned from it? Did you dive as deep as I have? I'm a YouTuber, so that's kind of my thing. I take notes and I try to reach for the deeper meaning in the story. And this isn't a CW show. This is a show that is meant to make you think. This is a show that's meant for us to talk about, and you take away what you think. So, what have you taken away from this episode? What did you like about this episode? What didn't you like about this episode? Leave me some comments. Let me know. By the way, I appreciate everyone who's been rewatching these. I had 188 on the last one and like 76 on the previous one. I really appreciate the love, and as long as I'm getting some good numbers on this, I'll continue to view this show. If you guys want me to check out other stuff, let me know. I'm about to do some reviews on Billions. I'm gonna do just an episode 1 through 6. That show's been amazing. Oh my God, I'm about to run in and watch the newest episode. But Showtime, man, Showtime is where it's at right now. They're just dropping the hammer on shows right now. It's been a great Sunday. Like, I had Billions drop on Saturday, Penny Dreadful drop on Sunday. I've been switching back and forth trying to watch them all. I think I just might do a series overview for Billions, but in the comments below, let me know what you think, uh, what your thoughts and feelings are, and thank you everybody for watching these reviews. Thank you, the 2 or 3 people that I get in here uh, watching me ramble for an hour. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I've enlightened you, and you like my takeaways. So Thank you, Stone Cold. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, man, for Showtime, I'd say you got Ray Donovan, you have Shameless, you have Billions, you have Penny Dreadful, OG Penny Dreadful, and City of Angels, man. You can't go wrong. Honestly, I don't I'm not gonna sit here and just shill for people, okay? I shill for DC Universe all day, every day. And I gotta say, I shill any day for Showtime. I have been consecutively watching this station for like 5 years. Their shows have been top notch. Is there some politics in their stuff? Yeah. But these writers don't do surface level politics, okay? It's not this bullshit low production television, you know, bullshit that they put out, all right? This is cable network writing. It's spot on. You got great actors, you got good scripts, and if they throw that stuff in, it's tasteful and it's relevant to the story. Look, I don't have a problem with politics in a show. I don't have a problem if the politics help move the story along and if it's relevant to the story. And every show I've watched, they've done stuff that's relevant to the story. I don't feel like they're pulling me out with what they're saying. Okay. And that's if you want to do that, if you want to put a little bit of a political tinge in there, you can do it. Just do it smart. Okay. Do it relevant. Make it part of your story, but don't make it the story. Okay. If you want to do that, then write for Bill Maher. But I appreciate these writers because they do throw these things in here, but they don't beat you over the head with it. And 90% of the time, it has to do with the character or the story or the interaction that they're telling. And I respect the hell out of that. So, yeah, go definitely check out Showtime. It's worth it. It's worth the money. I endorse it all day. I used to watch HBO. I don't much, man. HBO has fallen off. Okay. Showtime, Cinemax, Stars have really upped their game. Like Stars is a hit or miss, but Cinemax and Showtime, man, they've been putting out underrated shit for years now. And I'm really hoping that people watch this show because this show should get the views. And I mean, even some of the bigger YouTubers all reviewed the first episode of this show. And I know they were all going to go in and they were going to, blaze the hell out of it. But then when you watch the show, you go, hey, this is some pretty good writing. Like, this is relevant to the time. He's not just throwing in some woke politics. This is like from the era, real life shit that happened, and it has to do with the story they're telling. So, yeah, check it out, man. But anyways, thank y'all. I'm gonna head on out of here. We'll be doing late night talks on Friday. This Friday night at midnight. Come over there and join us. Also, me and Stevie J Reviews will have a movie talk, we're gonna call it, and we are going to talk about the movie Bombshell. So Stevie J just recently saw it, and he wants to get my take on the L's story. So that'll be a good back and forth. And I'm gonna be releasing stuff on the Prophets of Geek Culture. Go check that channel out. I did a video on Hush, the animated DCAU movie. I'm doing all their stuff. I'm doing the Harley Quinn show, part 1, episodes 1 through 6, and then I'm gonna do part 2, episodes 7 through 10. So, as always, everybody, remember the only rule here in the fandom car: kneel before General Zod. Y'all have a good day.